All right. So I posted this on our Facebook group a few days ago, this meme right here. And here's the deal. The legend goes, one day Albert Einstein wrote on a blackboard the 10 multiplication problems you see here. Okay? In class, they mocked him, made fun of him because of the 10 problems on the board. Although he got 9 of them right, he had made a mistake, as the correct answer for 9 times 10 is, of course, not 91, it's 90. Albert Einstein waited for everyone to shut up, quit laughing, and said, despite me answering the first 9 questions correctly, no one congratulated me. Instead, when I got one wrong, everyone started laughing. This means that despite being very successful, society will only notice the smallest mistake and make fun of it. Don't let simple criticism destroy your dreams. So the moral, this legend goes, is only those who do nothing don't make mistakes. Work hard every day. All right. So first of all, I do not believe this story. I do not believe Einstein wrote out these 10 equations and was trying to make a point to a class of his about the value of trying even if you make mistakes. Even so, I like it because it is a reasonably good example of at least 2 things. Number 1, negativity bias is a real thing, and that skews our attention to observe and focus on things that are wrong or that may potentially harm us. And 2, those who are doing fail the most, but probably not the hardest. Okay? So first, negativity bias is a real thing that skews our attention to observe and focus on things that are wrong or that may potentially harm us. As you can see here on this little scale, the single sadness incident outweighs the 5 positive happiness incidents. So negativity bias is a real thing, and it does skew us to observe and focus on the things that are wrong and that may potentially harm us. We are often very hard on ourselves. Part of this is nature, in that biologically we're hardwired with the negativity bias. That is, we're always on the lookout for things that could be bad or that could harm us, as would have happened back eons ago with our ancestors who had to always stay awake and alert and aware of predators and things that could have harmed and killed us. That's just one example of the nature of the biological side of things that helped keep us alive and continues to do so. And part of the negativity comes from our nurture, that is our upbringing, our interactions with others at every step of our life journey. Okay? So how negative we are, how attentive we are to negativity, how much we notice it, how much we're in tune with it, can definitely be partly said to be what could be responsible is the nurture side of things, in other words, our upbringing. And sometimes, let's face it, we're not just hard on ourselves, but sometimes we're also very hard on others, hyper-focused on catching every little mistake they make. Sometimes we mean well, though, when we're trying to catch mistakes. Sometimes we mean well. For example, when we're parenting with the mindset of genuinely doing what we believe is best for our kids, even if it makes us unpopular. Might there be times when we point out the mistake with the intention of helping? Sure. Does it mean we're right for not also pointing out the 9 other things they did right? No, it's not. But it really varies, but there's a lot of good intention a lot of times that goes behind looking for and pointing out the mistake that can occur. And this is just one example. And let's face it. Ooh, look at this. Everybody triggered? Everybody freaking out? All right, settle down. Let's face it, sometimes our negativity bias comes from whether we like someone or not, whether we believe in their value system or not, or whether we buy into their ideology or not. Depending on which side of the fence you're on here, for example, it's common for the other side to not be able to do anything right or good. And you want to talk about a hyper-focus on catching the littlest of mistakes? Just let either one of these presidents say one unintentional wrong word. And it's a literal equal opportunity feeding frenzy for the opposing side. Right? Absolutely. So, whether we don't give someone credit for 9 right answers and instead point out the one wrong answer of the 10 equations, is partially based on 1, our innate negativity bias. Number 2, maybe because we want to help them see the light and error of their ways. And yes, We might also point out the mistake partially or wholly because we don't like someone or their values or ideology. So, that's enough about negativity bias. I said this likely fictional Einstein chalkboard example illustrated nicely a second thing. Those who are doing fail the most, but probably not the hardest. So if someone somewhere ever really did write these equations as they are here, then they took some time and effort, minimal as it would be for most, unless a very young child, to write them out. For doing so, for writing them out, this opens up the possibility of making a mistake. Had they not written the equations out at all, there was no chance of making a mistake. Right? No chance of making a mistake if they didn't write them out. Right? No chance of making a mistake, no chance of failing. So, doing nothing was the better play here if not making a mistake, not failing, was the goal. Or was it? What if this was an assignment for school to write out the equations and the answers for each? So for doing nothing, the teacher gives an F grade, or a 0 because it wasn't completed at all. Was doing nothing then really the safer play if our goal was to avoid making mistakes, to avoid failing? Well, a quote that's made the rounds forever and a day goes, to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing. But is that true? It's kind of like being safe from failing by not writing out the equations. Look, you can be criticized precisely for doing nothing, saying nothing, and being nothing. Right? To avoid criticism, it says, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. It gets spread around, it's been around forever. Millions of spreads around on this. Okay? But is it true? No, it's not. You can be criticized for saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing. Back to my position of those who are doing fail the most, but probably not the hardest. Yes, if you are pursuing a worthy endeavor, the likelihood you are going to make mistakes, of failing multiple events along your journey, is 100%. You definitely are going to make mistakes. You're definitely going to have failure events along your journey. The chance of that is 100%. Zig Ziglar, very early on mentor of mine, I still have a lot of respect for him, he's now passed, said, failure is an event, not the person, and yesterday ended last night. So you do have a 100% chance of making mistakes and failing various events along the way if you're striving for that worthy endeavor. And while, depending on the pursuit, the failing and mistakes can create hard consequences that you'll need to learn and recover from, if we look at those who are the most successful in life, they are striving for growth and actively pursuing worthy endeavors. They are doing things, saying things, and at whatever level, trying to be things. And because they are actively engaged in their pursuit, they not only are 100% likely to experience event failures, they are 100% likely to be criticized at some level too. I'm going to stand firm though on saying the inevitable event failures and criticisms are not as bad as the pain of never trying, never striving to become better, to become your potential. You are not protected from failures and criticism because you choose inaction. So choose to go for it. Let the failure events come, learn, and recover from them. And this is referred to as failing forward. Let them come. Learn and recover from them. Fail forward. As for the inevitable criticisms, well, Theodore Roosevelt's Man in the Arena fits wonderfully. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes out short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. By avoiding action, you might miss some of the failure events and criticism, but you also miss all the good that can only come from trying. So for each day or moment in time when you write out your 10 equations, and you or someone else discovers that, let's see here, let me say that again. For each day or moment when you write out your 10 equations and you or someone else discovers that one of the 10 equations was a mistake or wrong, remember the other 9 right and good things you did. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's easier to see the negative. I get it. It takes more work to look for the good. I get it. Do it anyway. Do it for yourself. Do it for others. Fight for what matters to you, no matter what. Pursue the worthy endeavors. Persist without exception. Because even if you fall short, what better way is there to live? I'll be honest. I didn't know that little meme I posted. I'd seen that meme float around quite a long time ago. It stuck in my head and hit me again earlier this week, and I said, yes, I do want to share that. Not because I believe it's an actual Einstein story, but because I knew there was messaging in there that I wanted to share with all of you. I knew there was a point of view that I had that at the time I really don't think I had full, I don't think I had, I know I didn't have full clarity on. I probably don't even have full clarity now, but I have a lot more clarity on how I feel about that image where we do have that negativity bias and we have that tendency to focus on laser in on just boom, look at that 10th, equation that's wrong without recognizing the other 9 that are right. What was it about that is just so innately true about us? It was one of the things that I wanted to point out for us all. And then also how can learning about it, how can learning where it naturally comes from and why we're naturally wired to do it, how can that help us to still, want to go for it when there's a very high likelihood that we and others are going to criticize the one thing we do wrong, even if we've done 9 other things right? Just as an example. So hopefully I know for me, after going through this myself and kind of getting the clarity and putting this all together, I feel better about kind of all of it, from the aspect of the negativity bias, right? We've got nature, we've got nurture, we've got our own filters, just life filters, and I don't believe in your value system, I don't believe in your ideology, therefore nothing you can do is right. Meanwhile, one of the tenets I have on just living a good life is to, if you, for example, if you have a spouse, put your spouse on a pedestal. No, you don't want to be run over. No, you don't want to be taken advantage of. But if you're with just a good person that you love and they love you, put your spouse on a pedestal because you're going to see almost only the good. Not that you're never going to see anything bad, but you're going to be far more tilted to see the good, where they have a much harder time in your eyes of doing anything wrong. So anyway, that filter is just one of the ways that we can look at this negativity bias aspect. And then that second component, which is, doing, is going to result in failures and criticism, and some of those negatives are obviously they're very real and they can be very hurtful. But that's why I say that those who are doing may fail and receive the most criticism, but not necessarily in the hardest way. I think that it is the hardest way to fail or to have, to experience the failures and the criticisms when you haven't strived for anything at all. And at the end of the life, you have regret for not trying, not going for it. So whatever may happen, maybe you'll never reach the pinnacle of whatever it is you were striving for. But I think that striving for the pinnacle, even if you fall short, I think that there's going to be a lot more overall happiness and success and contentment, even with the aspects of the failures that are going to come and the criticism that's going to come. And I guess I just want to close that out by saying that throughout this whole journey of transformation, you're going to do a lot of things right. and you're going to, by going for it, you're going to do some things wrong. So you're going to feel those failure events, and you're going to feel that internal criticism, and you might have that external criticism from other people too. Keep going, keep striving, pursue the worthy endeavor, persist without exception, and let the chips fall where they may. Look, you're going to be criticized even if you don't try. There's going to be failure events even if you don't try. But at least by trying and continuing to pursue that worthy endeavor, one, you've got a much greater chance of achieving it because you're trying to go for it. And two, you're very likely to get it if you'll actually do the PWE squared, right? Pursue the worthy endeavor and persist without exception. I would rather have the failure events and the criticism for trying than to have some false notion that I won't have failure events and criticism because I didn't try. You're still going to get it. You're still going to have failure events and criticism if you don't try. So go for it, give it all you got, and let's strive for the pinnacle. And wherever it goes, all right? That's what I continue to do, and hopefully all of you will too. Let's do our best to look for the good. Let's do our best to look for those 9 things that are good in others and in ourselves especially. And the thing that's the negative is still going to stand out as it does, and we'll find it, because we're naturally hardwired to see it.